Good evening and welcome to the San Bruno City Council and San Bruno Redevelopment Agency meeting of July 12, 2011. Thank you, San Bruno Garden Club, for the floral arrangement you always supply. Very nice. Roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Here.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Here.
Mayor Ruane.
Here.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Here.
And Fire Chief, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We don't have any special announcements this evening, but we do have a presentation, which is a presentation of Green Business Certificate to Bay Area Green Solutions. And this is a first and unique to San Bruno, the first of very, very many, I hope. On behalf of the City Council, it is my pleasure to present this Green Business Certificate to the Bay Area Green Solutions. For those not familiar with the program, San Mateo County Green Business Program recognizes those businesses that operate in an environmentally sustainable manner. Each business that applies to the program must meet rigorous requirements related to pollution, prevention, recycling, energy efficiency, and water conservation. Bay Area Green Solutions provides facilities maintenance and custodial cleaning services for the commercial sector. It is a member of the United States Green Building Council, and their employees are certified as green cleaning technicians with the Green Cleaning Institute. Green. Bay Area Green Solutions is San Bruno's first certified green business, and we hope that many more will follow in its footsteps. I would like to invite Company President Roland Delgadillo to join me at the podium to accept the certificate.
Honorable Mayor, City Council members, it's a great honor for me to be standing here tonight accepting this recognition. For those of you who may not know, Bay Area Green Business Program distinguishes small businesses that protect, preserve, and sustain our environment. Within this business structure, there's a partnership of environmental agencies and utilities that offer incentives and verifies that participating businesses conserve energy, water, minimize waste, prevent pollution, and shrink their carbon footprints. Businesses that meet these standards are officially recognized as Bay Area Green Business. My firm, Bay Area Green Solutions, provides green cleaning and custodial services. Our goal is to provide a cost-neutral option to traditional janitorial services. Our facilities maintenance programs and green audit services partners with clients to help them reduce their carbon footprint by improving indoor air quality and work towards zero waste, implementation of recycling programs, updating purchasing policies, and having a true green cleaning program in place. Our philosophy is to clean and to protect health without harming the environment. As I know all of you are familiar with green cleaning products and its environmental impacts, are you aware of the relationship between green cleaning and human health? I invite you to use your favorite search engine and enter the term sick building syndrome. This is a condition directly related to being exposed to volatile organic compounds that include, but certainly not limited to, chronic fatigue, headaches, fibromyalgia, depression, edema, heart palpitations, asthma, and cancer. A recent study by the Berkeley National Laboratory Indoor Air Quality states that work performance may be improved by up to 10% by providing indoor environmental quality. There we have a positive health, environmental, and financial impacts with implementation of a sound environmental policy and green cleaning. Once again, I would like to thank the City of San Bruno in its pursuit of environmental stewardship. I'm humbled by your gesture, and I salute your environmental leadership as a city. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Review of the agenda. Any changes anyone would like to make? I would like to move comments from council members up to after item number G, that's okay, or item G. Item number 6 is the approval of the minutes of the City Council meeting of June 28th, 2011. Any errors, omissions, corrections? Seeing none, they will stand approved as submitted. Consent calendar. All items are considered routine or implemented early or council action and may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion unless requested by a council member, citizen, or staff. Any action on the consent calendar?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion second on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Public hearings. Notices have been published, posted, and mailed. There are no public hearings this evening. Item number 9, public comment of items not on the agenda. It is the council's policy to refer matters in this forum to staff for investigation and/or action where appropriate. The Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing or acting upon any matter not agendized pursuant to law. Would anyone like to address the council on items not on this agenda? Seeing none, we move right to conduct of business, item number 10. The first item is to receive an oral report on the 2011 4th of July fireworks activity.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, good evening. Tonight we're going to present the oral report for the fireworks for 2011 season. I'll begin my report outlining the public education efforts. Prior to the holiday, city staff met with the permitted sales organizations to review procedures and safety precautions. Safe and sane flyers were posted at schools and locations throughout the city. All fireworks booths were inspected on opening day, and inspections continued through the holiday to ensure compliance. We also ran an article in the Focus magazine outlining the safety guidelines. We did receive several complaints prior to the holiday regarding concerns used of fireworks, especially in the Glenview neighborhood. A contractor was hired to mitigate the weeds on the vacant lots and canyon area in the Glenview area. From an operational standpoint, the fire department did staff a reserve engine with 3 personnel and an additional battalion chief on the 4th of July. The holiday weekend activity was similar to last year, as we ran about 12 calls on the period July 4th holiday 24-hour period. None of those responses were for fireworks-related incidents. On Sunday, July 3rd, we did have a grass fire on Goodwin Drive that was suspicious, but the investigation could not confirm illegal fireworks. There was obviously the usual illegal fireworks activity, as police department did confiscate 110 pounds of illegal fireworks. I do think we were fortunate for the rain on the June 28th that kept the moisture content in the grass and brush higher than normal. That concludes the report on the fire side, and I'll turn it over to Chief Jelford for the law.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. Our pre-enforcement efforts included contacting those neighborhoods where we've experienced previous problems in years past. Officers deployed additional patrols in the days leading up to the 4th of July to warn residents of the dangers of illegal firework use and of the potential fines faced when we encountered a violator. We contacted 192 residents during our pre-enforcement efforts. Over the 8-day reporting period from June 28th to July 5th, we had 157 reports of firework violations. Last year, we also had 157 reports of firework violations. On the 4th of July, all police personnel were brought into work with the exception of those already scheduled for a 40-hour block of vacation. We also brought in officers from other jurisdictions to assist us. We regularly have, the city's divided up into 3 areas. So we had our normal patrol officers doubled up to handle the normal routine calls for service, and in addition to that, the additional personnel that we were brought in on the July 4th were assigned to enforcement teams equally in those 3 geographic regions. We also had 1 unit assigned solely to the Glenview area. On July 4th, we had 211 calls for service. Last year, we had 266 calls for service. Well, we had less calls this year it seemed to me that the activity level was slightly higher, if not equal to, what we experienced last year. As the fire chief mentioned, I also received complaints from residents, and I received several complaints from residents on the latter part of the evening on July 4th and on July 5th. And their concern was, where were we? They had called, and they didn't see anybody respond. As I tell you every year, our peak activity is from 8 o'clock at night to around midnight. This year, it was roughly 8 o'clock at night to about 11 o'clock at night, but there were still violations that occurred afterwards. From that time, we had about 100 calls for service, and that's about a 3-hour period. Normally, we have 80 to 100 calls for service on a busy day. I think partly the reason for the complaints, and as you may already know, at approximately 8:50 p.m., our officers were assaulted when they attempted to make an arrest of an illegal firework violation. There were 6 individuals arrested during this incident, and as you can imagine, in addition to the injured officers, we had officers tied up handling those that were arrested, and we had also officers tied up investigating that crime. That was also at 8:50 in the evening, right when it began the peak of our activity. This may account for some of the calls and some of the complaints that why we weren't seen. However, we did redeploy our officers, and enforcement teams were back out. We happened to make 10 arrests during the evening of July 4th. Officers encountered situations where the use of illegal fireworks was mixed in with the use of safe and sane, and it makes it difficult to tell and difficult to observe violations. Violations were observed throughout the city. There was no geographic region that was more prevalent than others. And once again, we did have patrols in all of those geographic regions. The total cost for our education and enforcement campaign is estimated at about $44,937. This amount is, again, attributed and referred back and taken out of the sales of safe and sane fireworks to reimburse us for our costs to provide education and enforcement campaign over the 4th of July holiday. That concludes my presentation, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions if I can.
Any questions of the chiefs?
Through the chair.
Michael?
Chief Telford, based on your experience this year, would you estimate that we should consider maybe charging a bigger fee in future years and expanding your presence during the holiday?
Yes, you know, it's difficult because the 3 previous years we experienced a steady decline. You have one incident that can occur that just kind of throws your whole game plan off a little bit. So yes, we are going to reevaluate, we are going to look at our enforcement efforts, and I will likely be increasing our enforcement efforts next year.
And do you have any news on the condition of the officers that were injured that night? Are they all doing okay now?
All the officers are fine and have returned to work.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Through the chair, could you refresh my memory, how many days does the city of San Bruno allow for fireworks sales?
It begins June 28th and it ends July 4th.
So
and we keep records to July 5th.
7 days, and I know in other areas that do have those, and I don't know if it's by the ordinance that was passed by the residents in the election of 2005, the time frame, is that time frame within that? Okay. Just a question or two came up from folks as potentially maybe offering it to be sold 5 or 6 days in lieu of the 7, as some other areas do. I know some groups even thought that'd be easier to try to staff it, because sometimes it's hard getting volunteers. Other groups have an easy time doing that. But if it's within the ordinance, then
Yes, that specific detail, along with virtually all of the other specific requirements for the sale and use of safe and sane fireworks, is specifically articulated in the ordinance that was placed on the ballot in 2005. The City Council does not have the latitude to change that without a subsequent vote of the people.
Okay. Thank you for that. And my only comment is that I stopped by the station for the briefing and did a short ride along with Chief Telford. I would agree that his assessments as far as the evening's concerned, but once again, I always am appreciative and thankful of the officers and all the staff, because they're sworn, non-sworn, they're all on duty that night, obviously giving up their opportunity and the ability to be with family and friends in order to try to assist San Bruno in its celebration of 4th of July and meet what the residents have wished for in the election of 2005. So I was very saddened when I heard about the folks being accosted and assaulted allegedly by the residents in this incident, and I'm glad that they're doing fine. But again, I want to offer my thanks to the fire and the police for their diligent effort, their education, and their service to the community during that holiday.
And one more comment, I agree with Councilmember Medina, but a few things that I have to say. I happened to be with the chief in a ride-along when that call came in, and as the chief said, no monetary cost for the city. It's paid for by the people that buy, safe and sane fireworks. There was a cost to the city. We lost 5 officers that evening, some minor injuries and some more serious, but we lost 5 officers, and we lost the ability to put all of those officers on the street. It was pretty scary. I did not, at the chief's suggestion, get out of the car, but I was at the incident, and there were more red lights than that looked like a fireworks show on its own, just because of the response that was there. Pretty scary, pretty scary. And then we went back to the station and visited the officers who were there and being cared for, as well as some of these very, very bad, I won't say alleged perpetrators. They were perpetrators, pretty nasty people, that in fact caused a lot of this injury. So I got a lot of inquiries, some in writing, some verbal, some emails, regarding why can't you as a city council stop this fireworks? Why can't you do this? Well, we can't. We put it, as Mr. Medina said, before the voters, which I objected to, actually. I'll be happy to say that in 2005, and they overwhelmingly wanted fireworks. And it's mostly because, obviously, the very, very quick fundraising that takes place over a very short period of time. Totally understandable from a financial standpoint. So it's not up to this council. We're doing the very best we can with what we have. It was just a very freak incident that occurred that evening, a very scary incident that occurred that evening. And it did cost us. It cost us some officers that evening, which was scary enough. And it cost us the fact that we couldn't put all of those officers on the street. So to those people that criticized, I want you to understand, I understand it's frustrating out there to listen to what sounds like professional fireworks shows and totally illegal M1000s and M80s out on the street. But we tried the very best that evening, and any small incident like that, or large incident, can actually make a difference in our best planning, and that's what happened that evening. So I do commend the officers for doing what they had to do. They drive around a lot, and this time it was more than driving. It was very, very scary, and I hope they're all doing well. So thank you very much. Item B, adopt a resolution amending the city's master fee schedule related to waiver of fire department, public services department, water and wastewater fees for residents impacted by the Glenview fire.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. At the October 12, 2010 City Council meeting, the City Council voted to waive all building and planning permit and inspection fees for residents who are rebuilding and remodeling homes damaged or destroyed by the Glenview fire. The action taken by Council at that October 12th meeting amended Chapter 3 of the Master Fee Schedule, which includes charges for building, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing permits, planning fees, and inspection fees. The proposed action that City Council is being asked to consider tonight furthers that action taken at the October 12th meeting by amending the Master Fee Schedule to waive the fire, public services, water, and wastewater fees for residents whose homes were destroyed or damaged by the Glenview fire. These fees include the fire life safety plan checks, fire system inspections and consultations, grading permits, encroachment permits, water and wastewater capacity charges, water meter installation charges, and new account fees for utilities. Eligibility requirements to qualify for the waiver remain the same as those identified previously and include being the owner of record on the property as of September 9, 2010, The work being covered by the permit must have been caused by the fire. The property address must be in the Glenview fire area, and the planning process must be complete with permits issued by September 9th, 2012. It is anticipated that these waived fees will impact the city's general fund by approximately $32,500, the water fund by $50,000, and the wastewater fund by $90,000 over the next 2 years. However, these waived fees will be reimbursed to the appropriate fund by the trust fund established in coordination with PG&E to cover city costs associated with the explosion and fire incident. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of finance staff? Any action?
Oh, through the chair,
Irene?
I just have a question. Is there a reason we're making the deadline September 2012? Is there, if somebody has a problem with that deadline, can they have a waiver or extension or something?
That was how the original program was set up.
Okay.
There's nothing that is inflexible about that. The city council reserves the right to make a blanket extension or to give us the authority to do that on a case-by-case basis. I think once we get closer to September of 2012, we'll have a much better idea of what the status of the rebuild progress is and whether there is a need in order to serve the neighborhood's interests, whether we might return to you and ask for some additional time. It was really only our intent to keep this to a very specific purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, the program is flexible at your policy.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anything else?
If not, I'll go ahead and introduce the resolution for adoption.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10C, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a construction contract with JJR Construction, Inc. for the concrete repair and replacement project in the amount of $274,088 and approving the construction budget in the amount of $329,000.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and member of the council. I'm here tonight to present to you with the concrete repair contract. As you're aware, it's city's objective to provide and maintain a continuous pedestrian system that is safe and accessible. The proposed concrete contract will provide the means for the city to meet this objective. With this contract, the city will be able to repair damaged sidewalk and install accessible ramps at various locations within the city. The sidewalk repair priority were established in 2009 to address the repair needs within the city. The priorities are first to repair city responsible location with the offset greater or equal to 1.5 inches. Then to focus on the location with offsets less than 1.5 inches in the pedestrian emphasized zone and in the neighborhood zone 4. Accessible ramp installation are also included in the priorities. A total of 982 damaged sidewalk locations were repaired. However, there are still approximately 2,614 locations that require repair. The proposed contract includes 26 city responsible and an estimate 50 private responsible locations. Upon completion of the proposed repairs, there will be approximately 2,535 locations that still need to be repaired. This is the map with the proposed sidewalk repair location, and I do apologize for the size of the map, but the blue dots is the proposed grinding or repair locations, and the orange dots is are the replacement locations. Other concrete work including this contract are the approximately 67 accessible curb ramps and as needed repair for due to the emergency utility repairs. This map presents the proposed accessible ramp location within the redevelopment area. Total of 3 bids were submitted. The lowest bid is $274,088. This is slightly lower than the bids that were rejected in May 2011. The lowest bidder is JJR. He's a qualified contractor specialized in concrete repairs. JJR was also the contractor for the previous 2 concrete repair projects for the city. Staff received no complaint regarding their work. The proposed construction budget is $329,000, which includes 20% contingency, and the contract will be funded by Measure 8, RDA, and operational funds. If the contract is approved, we anticipate starting the city responsible location and notifying the homeowners of the program next month. We anticipate the city responsible work will be completed in October 2011. Once we receive a minimum quantity of work from the interested homeowners, we will issue a notice to proceed for the contractor to perform the private responsible locations. With this, I like to answer any question that you might have.
Any questions?
Through the chair.
Ken?
I'd like to know more about how is the public receiving this? I guess initially property owners feel that the city's responsible for it and that they're taken aback that it is their responsibility. And I'd like to know how we're going to plan, because it looks disproportionate as to how many are still responsible by the private property owners, and the city is taking care of ones that we're responsible for. So is there much complaints or education having to be done with the property owners saying this is your responsibility and this is a good program to take advantage of it right now?
As part of the outreach, we're planning to include utility inserts to explain and hopefully to educate the homeowners that what are their responsibility, basically detailing the city is only responsible to repair damaged locations that are caused by city trees. And we'll provide those in this utility insert, and we can certainly include promotional ads or notices on cable.
Also, back in 2009, after you made the decision to implement a more robust public education program, was a short film on the cable about private property owner responsibility on the sidewalk. That was a short film which ran almost a full year, and also was included last year also a educational pamphlet in the utility inserts, exactly how will be included this year.
As a member of the subcommittee, that was my main concern is the awareness of the property owners, because at some point there's going to be a lot of property owners that still have not taken advantage of it, and they're going to be faced with encroachment permits and higher costs. So I'm more concerned that that they're being alerted that this is a good deal as we come through their neighborhood.
If I might add, Councilmember Ibarra, you're exactly correct. And in further answer to your question, I think the department has been pleased with the response of the public in prior years and has achieved actually a good participation by residents and a reasonable level of understanding about what the private versus the public responsibility is according to the city's municipal code. Certainly, there is a need for additional outreach, and not all property owners who have the private responsibility issue have in fact taken advantage of the program. Ultimately, it may continue to be necessary for us to consider in the future enforcement action, but we're still working with a positive reception to the program as the subcommittee blessed it a few years back, and actually receiving reasonable public response.
I'd like to feel comfortable that they are being contacted directly and not totally depending on cable again. The comments I've heard from the residents that have taken advantage of it were very surprised, and they were just glad that they had an opportunity.
So far, the volunteer approach was successful, and is a growing interest experienced by the department. The department is contacted by the residents asking when this opportunity will be available to them. I just want to remind you that was also part of this program when will be implemented the next phase of enforcement, when the city will have this contract in place. Then for like in the next phase, for the pedestrian emphasized area, letters will be sent out by the city to all of those property owners who the city is aware of some existence of the deficient sidewalk, asking them and in essence mandating them to repair the sidewalk, either taking advantage of the opportunity with the city or outside of that opportunity. That phase wasn't implemented yet, and it's not our recommendation tonight to implement that phase, but that will be the next phase.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair.
Medina?
Looking at the proposed replacement locations on attachment 2, there's one which is 165 DeSoto Way, which is at 4.5 inches. And I'm wondering in the first go-around how something that elevated was not maybe accomplished or targeted. And obviously it's here now, and that's what's important, of course. But I mean, that's a significant base from our original objective that we had years ago.
That location is right next to the city park. I think there were 2 city trees that our main purpose was try to preserve that tree, and we were looking for alternative how to address it, but there were a different alternative as this department had contacted the residents. I think one of the alternatives is to eliminate sidewalk, but that really doesn't fit in line with the city's objective to provide a continuous sidewalk, which in this case leads to a city park. We kind of exhaust all options, and would like to include these 2 locations in this contract.
Okay, then the second thing is on Linden Avenue. It's the uneven rubberized sidewalk, which, if I'm not mistaken, is that not the recycled sidewalk that was put there?
Yes.
So why do we feel that didn't hold? Because that obviously wasn't a long time ago. I mean, it was a little ways, but that it's that bad, and it's been brought up by a few people that, obviously how bad and how wavy it became. Why do we think that project wasn't successful there?
It could be the base material, how is installed or imported, and then I also note there's landscaping adjacent to that sidewalk, and its slope is not uneven, so perhaps some irrigation water had run into and eroded the subsurface material that is supporting the rubberized asphalt concrete. That's why it's wobbling.
I just want to remind the council that this was a pilot project with grant money. I saw in many other locations this type of pilot project were successful. Here probably was a combination of the choice of the location and the implementation itself, how exactly the project was implemented.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of staff?
Through the chair.
Michael?
Regarding the private property replacements, are the residents asked to reimburse the city for the work, or does this cover the work completely if the residents take advantage of it?
With the notification to the homeowners will detail how they could utilize this program, but basically the city will have to receive their commitment, which include the fees that's associated with the repair, and we put them on the list. Once we receive that check from them, and the city, with this contract, will pay the contractor with that fee.
Okay, so then this budget, does it include money that's received from the residents?
Yes, we anticipate in the amount of 43,000. That's gonna be could be counted for that 50 location from the private side.
Okay.
So that's an estimate.
Okay, and if, for example, in an extreme example, if no residents took advantage of this program, then would our fee to this contractor be reduced by that amount?
Yes, I think our public contract code, we are allowed to, that percentage will fit in the code.
Okay, and for the public's information, if you had to make a ballpark estimate of what percentage discount they get by participating in this versus doing it on their own, do we have an idea of what that would be?
I think the unit cost for, give me 1 second.
What's also the encroachment?
I think the basic,
Encroachment.
the immediate saving would be the encroachment permit fee,
Mhm.
and that's almost $400. It's a little bit shy of $400, and then our unit cost for each linear fee for the sidewalk is about $8, and that is lower than the industry quotes that we've been getting, which is $12.
Okay, so it's a good incentive.
They have the benefit of scale.
Mhm.
That if you would have probably one contractor to do one sidewalk would cost more, versus here the contractor has the benefit of the scale itself. And I just want to make one additional clarification. What will be the sidewalk, which is the property owner responsibility, they are then entirely responsible for the cost of that section, less the cost of the encroachment permit. Also, the council decided that in the pedestrian emphasized area, the city will pay 25% of the cost of the sidewalk.
Okay, and one final question regarding the emergency repairs. I think in the presentation you said that we're limited to roughly 30 of those type of repairs.
That's also an estimate, and we have included about 103,000 in the budget for it, for that type of work.
And so that budget is also flexible if we don't have any emergency repairs, which I doubt, we wouldn't pay anything. Okay, and if we were to exceed the 30, then would we still get some reduced rate on the remainder?
Well, they're obligated to their unit price that was submitted. But we talked to our street maintenance crews, and these are the numbers that were provided in their reasonable estimate.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Good. Anything else?
I'd just like to say, it's not just sidewalk repairs, but you're installing handicap pedestrian ramps in, I believe, about 66 locations.
Mhm.
Yeah, which is very valuable to the neighborhood. And then my last request is that if we can get the contractor to not sign his work as large as I've seen. I've seen JJR's initials in many locations, and it's large letters, and I just think that it's a bit much. Just a little observation I've seen.
Thank you for your comment.
Any other comments, questions, action?
I'll introduce the resolution.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10D, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Pacific Access Contractors, Inc. for the purchase and installation of a wheelchair lift for basement access to the library in the amount of $28,500 and approving a construction budget in the amount of $33,000.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure to be before you again tonight to discuss the installation of the wheelchair lift to provide accessibility to the library basement. This contract before you is the latest in a series of projects that the city has undertaken to make the library more accessible. As you recall, last year we made ADA improvements to the public restroom on the first floor of the library. We also installed a wheelchair lift to service the mezzanine level of the library. With this contract, we would be installing that wheelchair lift to service the basement of the library, which is important because we have some ongoing children's programs in the basement, as well as some events for the Friends of the Library. We also have some potential to increase the number of classrooms or programs down in the basement if it was fully accessible to be used as a public facility for rental. Installation of this wheelchair lift would allow it to happen and provide that accessibility that we would need to be fully compliant. The installation would actually take place, the lift will be installed at the exterior of the library on the Angus side of the building, where there's a short flight of steps to access the basement, and it's not unlike the flight of steps that you see there. It's about almost the same number. You see the wheelchair lift is installed, will be installed against the wall. It will be docked at the sort of the down side of the flight of stairs. Once it's fully installed, there'll be a security gate so that there won't be any access allowed when the basement does not have an event in it. When their event is occurring, the gate will be unlocked, and the patrons who need to use the wheelchair lift, most actually have sort of a standardized key that is common for most of these lifts. If they don't have that key, of course staff does and would assist in the operation of that lift. The type of wheelchair lift that is appropriate for the city based on the building's requirements and is a commercial grade is only supplied and installed by Pacific Access Contractors, which is why we're going with them again tonight. We received a bid of $28,500, and with a contingency of about 15%, that's a total price of $33,000. Although we'll note that Pacific Access installed the last wheelchair lift in the library and was able to do that without exercising any of the contingency amount, which we expect to be the same in this instance. They're very specialized contractors that really come in here and know what they're doing. And so we expect that $28,500 to be the amount that we'll need to spend. The budget for this is actually funded by a grant that staff applied for and received from the San Mateo County Housing Department, which is the piece of the Community Development Block Grant. If the contract is awarded tonight, there will be approximately a 120-day installation schedule, which seems a bit long, but these lifts are customized to the particular location, so the contractor comes out, makes a measurement, sends those measurements to the manufacturer makes it, ships it back out here, it's installed, and then actually it's inspected by a state-certified elevator inspector before it's actually allowed to be put into operation. And I mean, you can see from these photographs that there's not just a piece of equipment to be in compliance, but these are actually nice pieces of equipment that serve a really good purpose for our library. And unless I've missed something, I'd be prepared to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff?
To the chair,
Okay.
I just want to, Mr. Shannon, pleasure to have you here again, of course. But I appreciate you bringing it up because I'd asked from the last chair lift, the contingency, because it was at 20%, which I thought was high and didn't understand the inconsistency. And I appreciate that I'd asked for some return information, and it is my understanding then that you're saying 0% was used.
0 was used, correct.
And that was inside. So now we have outside and 15% is used, which I think is acceptable, especially it's outside and we don't know what that may entail. So just for the record that, again, 20% I thought was too high, and obviously it was. But I also want to appreciate, I think the security gate is a good idea why we're doing this project, and I think that will be something for benefit, not only to protect the chair, but also the area that goes down to the basement.
Questions, comments, action?
One
Chair?
question.
Michael?
Sorry.
Michael?
I had a question about the location of the chair. It seems like on that side of the library, it may be exposed to the weather more. Are there any special considerations given to that to protect this device from the weather? And also, is there any other safety equipment that's going to be considered for that area to make it safer?
I believe most of that area is sheltered from the bulk of the weather. So I mean, unless we get a rain coming accompanied by wind from the straight north, most of that will be protected. There will be some weather elements. This type of lift has the specifications that will allow it to withstand those weather elements. The interior location of stairs, it's just too steep and windy to really accommodate at a reasonable cost a wheelchair lift. So this is really our only option. We think with the installation of the security gate, that we'll be able to have enough secure access, and the equipment itself should be able to withstand that exterior environment.
Okay. And I meant to walk by there and look, but where are the handicapped parking slots on that side of the street? Are they across the street from the library?
I think we have
Right in
some
front.
right in front of the building, right on the street, I believe.
Okay. So that would be perfect for this.
So so it's very, very close access.
Great. Thank you.
It's the right
Ken?
adjacent.
Just have a quick question. It's not just available to wheelchair users? Can anyone that has difficulty using stairs request to use the lift?
Correct. So there's grab bars there that they'll be able to use to not be in a wheelchair.
Okay.
Questions, comments, actions?
So you're all waiting for me because it's a library thing?
Maybe. Well, plus it's nice to see you here. So.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I have mixed feelings about this. I think it's fabulous that we are doing it. I know that it will open up the use of the basement area, and we haven't been able to utilize that for a long time the way we could. Of course, I'd rather have a new library, but since that's not in the works for right now, I'd like to introduce the resolution for this.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10E, adopt a resolution approving the water supply assessment for the proposed transit corridors plan.
Through the chair. Due to my residence within the redevelopment area, I'll have to recuse myself from this item.
Thank you, and I think Councilmember Vice Mayor Salazar also needs to recuse on this one.
I suppose I'll have to do that as well.
Aaron?
Thank you, and good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. As you know, over the past decade, there's been an increasingly amount of awareness associated with water supply as new development comes online. And because of this, the state passed Senate Bill 610 in 2001 that requires a water supply assessment to be completed anytime there's a large project or plan proposed. We're seeing this tonight because the city, as you know, is undergoing the transit corridor plan. And as part of the transit corridor plan, there's an environmental impact report. And amongst the many different things an environmental impact report looks at, it also has to look at water supply. So the way that the Senate bill is crafted, it requires that the water supply assessment occur before the environmental impact report is released, and that the findings of the water supply assessment be incorporated into the EIR. So the work has been done on the water supply assessment, and it did conclude that there would be sufficient water supply for the over 1,600 new units that are proposed, along with the commercial development and the retail development that are proposed within the transit corridor plan. The findings of that will be incorporated within the EIR, and they were also incorporated into the recently adopted urban water management plan that the City Council adopted within the last 2 meetings. In terms of the transit corridor plan itself, we're completed the EIR, the draft EIR. We're waiting for this to be approved, and then there will also have to be a little bit of traffic work that has to be completed associated with the recent court case that happened that's requiring us to go back and do additional traffic work. So once that's completed, the EIR will be released for a 45-day review period. And I expect that to occur within the next month to 2 months. So with that, I can take any questions from the City Council.
Any questions of staff? Irene?
Thank you. Aaron, part of this is landscaping. Do we need to specify in this that the landscaping should be drought resistant?
That's a good point. So within part of the reason, there's a lot of conservation efforts within the transit corridor plan, and those were taken into consideration within the water supply assessment itself. So within the transit corridor plan, there are requirements to use drought-tolerant landscaping, not only on the private side of things, but also within the public medians and everything.
Okay, as long as it's
Yeah.
set in stone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
No?
Action.
Okay. I'll introduce the resolution.
Board Member O'Connell.
Aye.
Board Member Ibarra.
Aye.
Chair Ruane.
Aye. Should bring our council members back in. Item 10F, adopt a resolution approving the application for the Proposition 84 statewide park program grant funds for the Lions Field synthetic turf project.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Will Anderson. I'm a staff engineer in the Public Services Department, and I'm here to present the resolution approving the application for Proposition 84 statewide park program grant funds for the Lions Field synthetic turf project. The purpose of tonight's action is for Council to consider adopting a resolution allowing the filing of a grant application to possibly obtain up to $2 million worth of construction funds for the Lions Field synthetic turf project. The project has been presented to Council several times before, but I can present a quick review. The overall intent of the project is to convert the existing natural grass at Lions Field to a synthetic turf to allow additional field usage throughout the year. In April of 2010, Council amended our capital improvement program to include this project and appropriated $200,000 of park in lieu fees to allow for survey and design work for the project. In November 2010, Council authorized the execution of a design contract with Verde Design to prepare the bid documents, and just a couple months ago in May, we presented the status of the design to Council, as well as potential fundraising efforts to fund the construction of the project. The City Council did state a willingness to possibly allocate up to $1 million worth of park in lieu funds for construction funding, but no official commitments were made at the time. So, staff has started a construction fundraising campaign, and I guess during the design development, our design consultant did notify us that this grant opportunity was available. The city did make a previous application, but was unsuccessful. But this time around, we're cautiously optimistic because we have a better handle on the design of the project, and the state has opened up more monies available through this grant. Staff did submit the application package to the state prior to the July 1st deadline, but part of that application package is a council resolution authorizing that the application be filed, but they will allow a so we can still provide the resolution within a reasonable time frame of the application. By filing this application, there's no cost to the city. There's no local match fund requirements, and there's no application fees. So we believe it's an opportunity worth pursuing, and respectfully request that Council do authorize this resolution. So as far as the next steps, we're thinking for the overall project, we're thinking that we'll come back to you, Council, in September. By that point, we'll have a final design, final cost estimate, and we'll have had more of an opportunity to fundraise. And September could be a decision point in the process, because if the project is constructed this fall, winter, September would kind of be the cutoff point to allow the bidding process and the construction so we could get the drainage system in place prior to Thanksgiving. And so we could, continue constructing through the winter. But because the grant application notification process won't begin until spring of 2012, that's, I guess, that's where the decision would have to be made farther down the road. But as we've stated throughout the whole process, construction on this project will not commence until we've secured construction funding and we've gotten council approval of the final design. So I'm open to answer any questions council may have.
Any questions of staff? Ken?
I'm just trying to do the math here. We applied for 2 million. We've stated that we have about $1 million in lieu fees that we. Why did we go in with 2 million? Is that? It seems that if we already had $1 million, why didn't we go in with $1 million, a grant for $1 million? That might be a better chance of getting the money instead of a $2 million amount. And if we only have $1 million and we go into construction in September of this year or fall of this year, and then hope and pray that we get the grant, and we don't get the grant, we're stuck with $1 million to pay for it. And then your last comment, you said that the project will not commence until we have the money. So I'm just trying to say, I'm clear as to how much money we need. I'm not clear as to what our contingency plans are to have money. I know the grant is a good idea, but in case we don't have the grant, how are we going to fund the extra $1 million?
To address your first question, based on technical workshops hosted by the state that were attended by our design consultant, it was their recommendation that we apply for the full project costs. I'm sorry I don't have the rationale behind that, but if you'd like, I could probably further research and report back. But as far as the overall approach, I know one of the hinge points is the fundraising efforts, and maybe I could ask Randy to give an update.
As Will said, that the construction project is $1.5 to $2 million, and we have been talking with the nonprofit organizations, the field users. They have been seeking some grants. There are other sources that staff is pursuing. Our hope would be to be able to come back to you before the decision point and say that we have at least enough funds secured to break ground on the project, looking at the $1.5 million level. Again, remembering that the additional cost was the restroom snack shack piece, which could be added on at any point. It would not have to be part of the initial installation. If we are able to do that, we would be able to come back to you and ask for a construction period this fall. If money is secured through this grant, which we wouldn't find out until later on, it would essentially just reimburse the park and lieu fees, so the $1 million committed would be able to go back. We could start the project, find out that the state is helping to finance it, and then just pay back our own park and lieu fees with that. That would be the hope. And we will continue to pursue some of the other groups. Staff is looking at other grants and also working with some of the groups that do support youth sports fields in the Bay Area. And so, as Will said, we will come back to you in August or September with an update on the rest of the fundraising.
Any other questions of staff? Action?
I'll adopt the resolution.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Good
Item
luck.
10G, receive an oral report regarding potential impact of the state budget and assembly bills which propose to eliminate or significantly reduce the capacity of redevelopment agencies.
Mayor, if I may, we'll just have the record reflect that both council members
Councilmember Salazar and Medina may participate in this item. It's just an informational only item. There's no action that's required.
Thank you.
Thank you and good evening once again. As agency members know, there's a lot going on with redevelopment right now. The purpose of tonight's report is to provide you with an update as to what is happening at the state level and how it impacts San Bruno's redevelopment agency and what are the next steps that we can take as a redevelopment agency. So the state, the governor recently passed a budget, and the Assembly and the governor signed two bills, and the two bills are known as ABX 26 and ABX 27. The first bill is known as the Dissolution Act, which basically kills all redevelopment agencies, and the second one is known as the Continuance Act, which allows you to continue as an agency if you make a certain amount of payments. So the first act, the things that it does, it immediately suspends all redevelopment activities, except for limited activities that are ongoing, and then dissolves all redevelopment agencies as of October 1st. The things that we cannot do as a redevelopment agency right now, you can no longer incur debt, you can no longer make loans or grants, you can't enter into new contracts, you can't amend contracts, you can't amend your redevelopment plans, you cannot sell, lease, or encumber new property, you cannot acquire property, and you cannot commence any eminent domain proceedings. It also, one thing, us and a number of other agencies entered into contracts between the city and the agency in order to facilitate projects. I think the state looked at these and they wrote the bill and tailored the bill to specifically develop. Those aren't valid anymore, basically. I think the cities along the way, the agencies along the way, showed their hand in the last 6 months, and the states specifically tailored their bills in order to eliminate anything that the cities and agencies did over that time period. Now, the good news is that there is this new Continuation Act. And what the Continuation Act does, if the cities agree to make these payments, that they'll be allowed to continue as a redevelopment agency, however, with additional payments for the life of the agency. So, in order to do this, the agency has to pass an ordinance saying that we'll make these payments by October. Although the sooner you do this, the sooner that we do this, the sooner that we're allowed to start to act as a redevelopment agency once again, to give loans, to do projects. So there's a lot of incentive to try to do this sooner rather than later. Whoops, turn this around so you know and
You already know who you are, right?
So what this means, though, so overall, it's a $3.2 million payment in 2011-2012 for the City of San Bruno Redevelopment Agency. Now, there's several pots of money that we would be able to use in order to do this. You're allowed to use operation money that you have in the bank. You're allowed to use current year operations money. You're not allowed to use any housing set-aside money that you have in the bank, but you are allowed to use housing set-aside money from the current year, which is a little bit different because in the past you weren't allowed to use housing set-aside money. The bad news is that a lot of projects that we had planned to do, or that we had planned to do in the next year to 2 year period, they're going to have to be delayed. We're just not going to have any money to do those. For instance, on the housing side, probably not going to be able to do the cinema site project because we won't have the bonding capacity in order to do that. We'll only have the money that we have in the bank, so that's a project that we'll not be able to go forward with. There is the grade separation happening. There's a lot of things within our implementation plan that says, hey, we want to focus on that grade separation area. We want to improve the crosswalks. We want to improve the sidewalk areas within there. We probably won't be able to go ahead with a lot of those projects right now because we don't have the bonding capacity and we don't have the operations money to both make the payment and make those improvements. So it's obviously going to delay economic development within the city of San Bruno because of what the state is doing. So in terms of timing, the sooner that we could get this ordinance in front of you, the sooner that we could once again start to make facade improvement loans again and do things of that nature. So staff is now tuning in closely to what the California Redevelopment Association is doing, what the League of California Cities is doing. Initially we thought a lawsuit was already going to happen by this time, There was a webinar today with the California Redevelopment Association. They said that's going to happen within the next week or so. They're going to do they're going to press a lawsuit against the state. However, they still recommended the cities and the agencies that have the capacity to move forward with this ordinance and to make these payments do adopt this ordinance, and they're going to be a parallel route of suing the state because this is in, this is prohibited with Proposition 22 that was recently passed. However, the state is still moving forward with this. So the next step, you will see, you will most likely see an ordinance in front of you if it's that the agency wishes to go forward with this and continue our redevelopment agency. We're going to have to do this sooner than later, but October by the latest. So I could take any questions at this time.
So it sounds like the X in the ABX is for extortion, pretty much.
No alleged here.
No, not alleged, not alleged. We have a totally dysfunctional state government trying to dump on
Unconstitutional.
on redevelopment agencies, which are totally functional, and most of these legislators know themselves, especially Jerry Brown, what good redevelopment does for cities. So it's ridiculous. It's disgusting, actually, that they can't mind their own house and they're trying to take it out of the cities. We have to balance our budgets, and we have no place else to go, and they're feeding on us, and it's very unfortunate and ridiculous. So anybody else want to make any nice comments?
I'd like to hear Robert's nice comment.
And actually, one thing through the chair, one thing I left out, the ongoing obligation beyond year one obligation is about $3.2 million. All the bill isn't very specific, but it looks from our initial calculations that it'd be about an $800,000 payment ongoing. Now, that's what this bill says. Who knows what the state will do in the long run, though? I mean, that's the unfortunate part if they're successful with this go around.
Okay. Mr. Rico?
Robert Rico, 7th Avenue. I believe Assemblyman Jerry Hill has got a meeting the end of this week or so that the city is going to participate in, so I would look forward to hearing very promptly after that if that affects what we may or may not desire for your actions to get us back on. So at least I'm glad to hear that the city is going to participate. I don't know what the outcome can be, but thank you for participating.
Through the chair, Mr. Mayor, I think you said everything correctly, and I know, Aaron, you used the word payment. That's for yourself, where you sit, that's the correct word, but I'd say stealing, I'd say taking, extortion, whatever the words you want to use. It's unfortunate, because what it does is it stops growth, it stops opportunity, it stops improvement, and that's what it was assigned to do. And once again, they first took $1.9 million, and now they've eliminated this because they couldn't get around it. So if they can't get around it, they eliminate it, and then they tell you how, if you want to join in, you can pay us this, and then you can continually pay us annually. And really, it affects growth in California. So that's what's also sad.
All right. Anyone else in the report? Okay, we'll just receive it. There's no action to be taken. At this point in time, we're going to move to item 12, which is comments from council members, and I believe Irene has a report for us.
I do, thank you. Back in April, sorry it's taken so long to get to, I attended the Progress Seminar, which was happened to be the 42nd one. And there was two programs that I wanted to inform you of. One of them was called the Social Media and Disaster Preparedness, and it was a discussion of changes in how people report disasters. So the panel that was doing the discussion and the subsequent discussion among all the people who were in the audience, their emphasis was people no longer just pick up a land phone and dial 911 and report the emergency. They were talking about people using their cell phones, using tweet, using Facebook, using different media to report different disasters or incidences that were happening. And the panel was discussing how municipalities should be aware of how this is going on, and that they need to form plans to respond to these kinds of things. They actually used the Glenview fire disaster as an example of us not being prepared about it. So I spoke up and told them a few things. So I'm surprised you guys haven't heard back from them. But anyway, I stood up for us. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and if you guys have some time to read a book, the keynote speakers that we listened to was, one was Joe Matthews and Mark Paul, and they wrote a book called How Reform Broke the Golden State and How We Can Fix It. And it was really a fascinating discussion on the history of our state, even from the very beginning, when the very first Constitution, even then it was kind of broken before it started. They had no particular guidance on how cities should fund themselves and how the state should fund themselves and be cooperative. And it's still, as we know, just especially what Aaron just said, it's still broken. So again, it says how reform broke the Golden State and how we can fix it, and it was very interesting. So those were that's my
Any
report
other
on that.
comments from council members? All right, at this point in time, we are going to call a recess and call to order our special city council meeting, which is, do we need to do roll call, Mark, or anything? Okay. And this is a special city council meeting immediately following our regular council meeting. And public comment on items not on the agenda on this item. Would anybody in the public like to speak on this item? It's not on this item. Seeing none, we'll go right into conduct of business, which will be adopt resolutions calling the November 8th, 2011 general municipal election, requesting election services from San Mateo County. City Clerk.
Honorable Mayor and Council, on November 8th, 2011, the City of San Bruno will have an election to fill expiring terms of our elected officials. There will be 3 elected offices to fill for the mayor, a 2-year term, and 2 city council members, 4-year terms. Upon approval of the required resolutions, the city clerk will publish a notice of election containing the time of the election and the offices to be filled. As discussed in our budget session, I have allocated $80,000 to cover the cost of this election. The cost is high because in odd years there are no governor or presidential elections to offset the cost. This nomination period will open on July 18th and it will close on August 12th. In order to run this election, I have 3 resolutions before you this evening, 1 to call the election, 1 to consolidate the election, and the other seeking county services. And I will be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
Any questions of the city clerk? Mark, we have to do all of these individually?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any action on the first resolution?
I'll introduce the first resolution, which is calling for an election, I believe is the first one.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Any action on the second resolution?
I'll introduce the second resolution, requesting the Board of Supervisors of the County of San Mateo to consolidate a general municipal election.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. And action on the third resolution?
I'll introduce number 3, whatever it is. The last one.
You're requesting county services.
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. At this point in time, we will adjourn the special meeting, which we just had, and return back to our regular city council meeting and adjourn to hold a study session on code enforcement strategy guidelines. And we won't be coming back, I don't believe, with any reportable action or.
Well, this is actually part of the regular meeting, Mr. Mayor. We'll be adjourning to the study session in the next room. The public is welcome to attend, and you will adjourn the meeting, the regular city council meeting. You will adjourn it after that item, and we'll be in the room adjacent. Any member of the public is welcome to join us.
Okay. Before we do that, I would like to say, while the public is here and we're still on cable TV, we lost a very, very close friend this last week, Ron Cox. Ron was a council member in the city of Foster City, but more importantly for San Bruno was Artichoke Joe's kind of right-hand man, and really helped us for many years to put together pancake breakfasts and helped us with donations for the city from Artichoke, just was an all-around class individual. And the member of the Lions, Ken, can expand on that a little bit if you'd like. Very well liked and will be sorely missed.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, it is sad news, and we've known for many months now that Ron, was ill, suffered from diabetes. But if I didn't know Ron, if I only knew Ron and his civic responsibility as past mayor, past council member of Foster City, and currently planning commissioner, I wouldn't have known all the great things he does in both communities as a Lion. He's been described as probably the most hardworking and generous individual in the town of Foster City, and we experienced it here in San Bruno. And through the arm of Artichoke Joe's and also the Samet Family Foundation, many organizations and schools have benefited with funding and their generosity. And because Dennis Samet is a very busy man and travels a lot, Ron Cox was the face of Artichoke Joe's and the philanthropy. And it's just so sad that he is gone. And most recently, the Lions were able to work with him and take over the Easter pancake breakfast. And he was very ill then and took over the fireworks show in Foster City, and that was probably the last straw. So he passed away, went in the hospital Friday and passed away Saturday. Mr. Mayor, if you can announce that there are services. I don't have
There are services this Friday afternoon at beginning at 1:30, and I don't have the exact name of the church. I'm sure you'll see it in the paper, but it's 1:30 in Foster City with a reception after, I believe, at 2:45.
Through the chair.
Irene?
I do have the church.
Oh, please.
It's the Central Peninsula Church at 1005 Shell Boulevard in Foster City.
Good. Thank you very much. So prior to our study session and our formal adjournment, I'd like a moment of silence in the memory of Ron Cox. Thank you very much. We'll go into study session and then formal adjournment after that.